You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the third instalment of the England Can't Bat Cricket Podcast. I'm Maxwell Brown. I'm joined on this lovely Boxing Day by a very fresh Jack Hope, who is
Hi, Max.
who is in the wrong place. So let me just swap him with Shane. There we go. And me. There we go. Excellent. We're all in the right place now. And yes, the aforementioned Shane Dietz is also with us. Shane, how are you?
Good, thank you. Merry Christmas. Yeah. Don't know, where do we start, mate? It's the same podcast as you had the last few times, no doubt.
Yeah, but this is only day one, so it can go downhill from here. Last time we spoke, it was day 5, so we knew the result. England were patting themselves on the back, got it to the final. That's what will happen tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, you texted me last night saying all that 180. You're right on the money there. So you should have put a little wager on that. You might have won some quids.
I have thought about this. People do say that my predictive powers are astonishing. The time I predicted England would win in India in the white ball series, the time actually I got right. KL Rahul would only hit 150 in England.
Did you predict your hangover today, though? That's the question.
You know what? Like, it was going so well yesterday. I was doing the Christmas dinner. I had the family over. I felt like the king of the castle. And I decided I'd play a game of, while Root's in, I'm in. Which I put this on Twitter.
That's what that message meant.
I
got this message on WhatsApp from Jack. I had no idea what he's talking about.
I didn't explain what the game was. So basically, while Joe Root was in, I was like, I'm going to watch this cricket until he's out. He got 50. He looked brilliant, in brilliant touch. Then he was out. And after that, I played a game of, well, Johnny Bairstow's in, I'm in. And that's where it went downhill. And that's why I look like I do. And that's why I feel like I do. Because I was up till, God knows what time watching England subside. Max, I think you are nominally hosting this show. What's happening next?
Next is, well, tell you what, Jack, why don't you give the messages for the listeners? So I think we had a bit of internet trouble at the start. Hopefully it's flattened out now.
Yeah, we're all good, I think.
Yeah.
Right, if you are a listener or a watcher, what you need to do is you need to click subscribe, like, follow, leave a comment, do all of those things at once. Spotify have just launched a thing where you put the number of stars, put 5 for the Cricket Podcast. Also, we're on Twitter and Instagram at the Cricket Pod, and we're on Patreon, patreon.com/the Cricket Pod for all of that. England, they lost the toss, they batted first. Patty Cummings put England into bat. I need to get the scorecard up, even though I watched it live. I can't remember what happened. I've deleted it from my memory already. Hasib Hamid, he got out to come in straight away. For some reason, England brought back Zach Crawley. They dropped Burns after his promising 34 at Adelaide. Brought Crawley back in. He was out to Cummins pretty much immediately as well. Then it was plain sailing till the lunch bell when Milan was out. England were 3 down for 60 odd at that point. Root was at the crease. I was playing while Root's in, I'm in. So I stayed up for 40 minutes drinking beer by myself. Oh no, my dad was there. I forgot my dad. My dad was there. We drank through the lunch break, and then England were rubbish after lunch. They were 185 all out, and finished the day 61 for 1. Max, are you back with us yet?
I am, yeah. Sorry about that. I just say I think the internet's as hungover as you. Apologies.
Yeah, I didn't do a very good summary there.
My Zoom kicked me off, then OBS kicked me off, and now we are apparently back, but we'll see how long that lasts.
Right, okay. You seem good. Did you hear my summary?
I heard bits of it. Essentially, for what I can tell, Jack, the main thread of the summary is that it's not when you've got a problem in your batting, the way to fix it is not to replace some mediocre performers with some other mediocre performers.
Look, at least with Crawley and Bairstow, we've got proof they're not good enough. Yeah. With some of the others, We're still not sure. So, at least we know where we stand when Crawley and Best are in the team. Shane, why don't we flip this narrative around? Normally we talk about how bad England are. Why don't we talk about what Australia did well? Because I do think sometimes on this podcast, because we're from England and we talk about that, or talk about cricket from that perspective a lot, we don't acknowledge how good Australia have been, because they have been pretty fucking good in this series.
Pat Cummings comes back in the team, and he just looks $1 million, got the first few wickets and really led from the front as the captain. But he's bowling really well, just puts pressure on the batters. And then Lyon bowled really well again, I thought. Bowling his first test looked okay. Not great. I don't think Stark bowled that well either. So England had a bit of a chance. And I think if you win the toss and bowl, you always got a bit of pressure on the bowlers to get the early wickets. So the batters, I always found that there's more pressure on the bowlers then, and then they really try to hunt wickets and don't stay as patient as they would on a good batting wicket. So there's a chance for England. I think there was a good toss to lose, actually. Even though Warney said that it was the most grass on an MCG wicket he's seen in 30 years, it did look a bit hairy. So tough toss to lose, I guess, but in trouble again. But some of the shots, though, Roots, Stokes and Butler, your three senior batters played horrific shots.
Disgusting.
Disgusting.
So bad.
Yeah. A green wicket and Butler just chips one out to deep square. I know he's trying to go over the top long on, but poor shot under those circumstances. Not needed.
With Butler's shot, I can guarantee you there was a conversation in the dressing room that went something like, "We need to get on top of Nathan Lyon."
Yeah.
And that was the entire strategy. No one talked about how to do that or what the best way of doing that was. They just sat there and were like, we should get on top of Nathan Lyon. And he's decided on his 11th ball to just, do what he did and just clip it straight to the man at deep mid. It was horrific.
It's horrible. And he just faced him for a few hours in Adelaide, so he should have had a good plan in his mind of how to play him. And so they played him off the back foot well there, and they could still do that and make him come a bit fuller. Then you go down the wicket. So you got to make the bowlers bowl to you a bit by leading well and defending well, and then they'll hunt wickets, which what happens when you win the toss. If you don't get wickets early, the bowlers get nervous and say, we've got a green wicket here. We have to get wickets. And then the bowlers make mistakes, and then you can capitalise as the batter, as the wicket dries out or flattens out as the day goes on. But England, they were no good, and those three senior players have got to lead from the front with the bat, and they were poor. So I didn't mind the selections though for England. Actually, I thought they had to do something.
Well, I mean that is
Besto
true.
played all right. Besto played.
We got the upper end of the expected return from Johnny Besto.
Besto at one point he did come out, and the thing with Johnny Besto, he's not a bloke who's going to die wondering. He will try and do something. Like, he's not going to stand there and get out. The problem
Apart
I think
from the bit where he stood there and got out, you mean?
Well, no, for sure. But that was a great ball.
It was.
That was a great ball that he got there. It's not of all the people in this lineup, he's one of the few players who can genuinely say they were got out. They weren't. They didn't throw it away. You talk about there, Shane, winning the toss and bowling first. If you're the captain, Pat Cummings, it was kind of inspirational, I suppose. The guy, he wins the toss, he puts himself into bowl, takes a new bowl, which he doesn't always do. Normally it's Hazelwood and Stark, and he rips out 1, 2, 3. Now I know Hamid, Crawley, and Milan's having a good tour, but is still Darwin Milan. I know it's not the greatest top three of all time, but he's talked the talk there big time by lunch himself to pick up those 3 wickets. What I really liked about him as well, or his captaincy, was I think every bowler was used before lunch. He got everyone into the game immediately. He might have been the one picking up the wickets, but everybody who was going to bowl serious overs for Australia had a go before lunch. And I just can't believe it's happening again. It's the same.
All the evidence points to it happening again, Jack. I don't know why you're surprised. I mean, but you're right. I agree on Pat Cummings. I thought it actually should have been a terrible decision to bowl, because the ball, it didn't actually do as much as maybe they thought it did. England should have been able to see that out.
It
It
didn't
looked like
swing
a
at
proper
all.
flatty.
So,
Yeah.
And
it didn't swing. I did a new ball did a little bit, but that was
but
about it.
not a whole lot.
yeah.
But yeah, he made exactly he made the most of it as much as he could, didn't he? And I think the bowling changes you mentioned, they were good because I mean it was basically he could see. Stark first up was crap. Basically, he bowled short and he bowled wide, and it was rubbish. No, he just got rid of it. He just hauled him off straight away. It was like, all right, no, that's not working. Brought on Scott Boland. He did okay. He was sort of kept it tight, but didn't look particularly threatening. So it was like, no, all right, Cameron, come on, you have a go. And then all the while, obviously, did the business himself. I mean, the fact that Nathan Lyon had to come on as early as he did in the first session kind of suggests that really England should have been able to do a lot better than they.
But when it's a bit grassy, it can generally spin a bit too.
Yeah, it did, and it did
damp on day
turn
one
to it,
in the first session. So
I think this is where actually having a bowler as a captain might help because he'll know what it's like to be out of the game as a bowler. And I think he involves bowlers really well in the game. Strategically speaking, it might not have been the world's best call to give Cameron Green the ball before lunch. But I think Pat Cummings, having had a career as a bowler, will understand the psychological dynamic of being excluded from the game for 30 overs, then being thrown it in the afternoon. What I really like about his bowling changes are that they're all proactive and they're all about either getting someone into the game or about getting someone out. I mean, how often do you see him? And I think in this series, the two tests he's captain, it's been really interesting to watch him think and make moves. How often do you see him target an England batter with a specific bowler? Like it'll be root onto bowl, so he'll bring himself on, or he'll get Green the ball, and it'll be. He'll really go after an England player in a way that we don't see England do very much.
I suppose the difference there, Jack, is that when you don't have a bowler who you can back to get an Australian batsman out regularly, it doesn't really matter. You can't really target.
I suppose, yeah.
Target anyone.
Right. So we've done.
They've got good plans, definitely, Australia. They definitely thought about it and done their research and got their good matchups. And, they look all organised and everything's working well for them, where England at the moment, they still don't know their best 11. They're chopping and changing. And, they're just on the back foot, aren't they? From Brisbane, basically.
Yeah. That's well, I mean, they picked the wrong team in the first place. And I think, Max, you were talking about this. There's a knock-on effect. Yeah. Every subsequent match they've had to play the wrong team again, if that makes sense, because the right players haven't been there, or they've been hit out the attack. I mean,
at this time round, we tried to solve our batting woes with people who we know can't do it, and the old trick, the tried and tested, 4 number 11s play.
Boys, talk. I said. The Twitter link this week of the batters standing on one leg in a batting drill. Talk me through that one. I'm a coach. Right. I've been around the world coaching. I think if you do it on the front foot, it means you've got to get your head forward to the ball. But if you're on your back foot, that means you're pushing your hands. It's just I don't understand that at all.
I can't give you any insight into this. I think what happened was that the England coach got ahead of himself. He, instead of teaching them to bat on 2 legs, he thought they'd go for the more advanced stuff and go for the learn how to bat on 1 leg.
Ollie Robinson did that quite well today.
Yeah.
A few nice one-legged shots.
Rory Burns looked roughly able to do the 1-leg stuff. Hasib Hamid was hopping towards the ball on his back foot, and like you say, Shane, throwing his hands at it, and you're watching it and you're thinking, what actually is what's the exercise here? You know, there's stuff, isn't there, about practicing spinning the nets. You don't wear a front pad because it teaches you to get your footwork right, and if you don't wear a front pad, you have to play everything into the offside. And the idea behind that is you get your front leg out the way and you learn how to play off the back foot. And you learn when to press and when to go back. This one, you could see the players, the body language of the players being like, why the
visibly
fuck
bemused.
am I having to do this? This is
it's mind blowing. It was mind blowing when I saw that. I just could not believe it. And the drill itself, and I think the commentators say they've got to play the ball late on this wicket when I was watching it last night, etc. But the openers, like when they're playing forward, their back foot is still planted flat, which means you got to get on your toe and get out your head to the ball a bit more, and that means you can play it late. If your back foot is planted on the ground, well, you're always going to be pushing out in front. So that drill is exactly probably the worst thing you can do, I think. So I don't.
That's quite.
I don't get it at all.
I mean, it fits the narrative, doesn't it?
Crazy.
It does. It does fit the narrative. Say what you want about England, but they are committed to 5-0 narrative. It's
They got the money on Australia, you think?
Wouldn't be surprised. That's where I'd put it if I were in that team.
The fix is in. I can't. The techniques are just. I don't understand them. But at least Crawley, it looks like it's an okay technique. But Root and Bairstow have got the best footwork out of all the batters, and they're the ones that actually looked okay, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with
their
that.
back foot, and they get their head moving forward at the point of release. Is what you want to do. And yeah, that's why they're getting in better positions, and particularly Root. So he does it perfect. He's one of the best in the world. Why don't they copying him? I didn't see him doing any one-legged drills.
I don't even. I mean, he's probably not got enough time to practice. He's so busy.
He's knackered. Yeah,
Firefighting.
He doesn't need to practice. He gets his practice when he's actually in the middle.
Yeah. He bats 400 days a year.
He scored 50 today, and that's a failure.
It was a failure. He did go to third in the rankings. Should we talk briefly about what happened after lunch? Because Root did get 50, and it was he looked so fluent while he was batting. Every time you watch him, it's a surprise how good he looks in comparison to everyone else. But it's almost one of those things as well. You have to sort of see it live to see the difference in ability. He's one of those players. They say it in football, don't they, Max? The really good players look like they've got a bit more space than everyone else.
Yeah.
Root is exactly like that. When you see him live, he just
More
looks
time.
like the bowling's a bit slower,
Yeah.
or the pitch is a bit easier, and you'll have Rory Burns dancing around at the other end, and he will make the bowlers look like they're extra special.
I think
you
a sort of
Root,
a nice comparison for that point is Joe Root and Ollie Pope, because both do their best to look busy. One looks busy with all the time in the world, and one looks busy as if he's 15 minutes late for the bus.
Yeah, it is. That's they're the two that's the juxtaposition, isn't it? It's everyone else trying their best to bail out their little rowboat before it sinks, and he's cruising along, having one of the great years in Test cricket. It's astonishing, and it was another one of those innings where he just looked so in control until he was out.
From ball one, he come out and hit him straight away in the middle. He looked really good. But it's always up to him, isn't it? He must be frustrated that he's getting no support from his teammates. But I don't know what else he can do. He's leading from the front with the bat. Can't do much else.
Sorry,
I've got a head cold. My first European winter. Oh, right, it's cold. -3.
You never been? You've been in Europe for the summers before. The
only
European summers.
So it's my first Christmas and winter.
Fair weather European.
It gets
exactly.
cold. It'll be cold in Amsterdam. It's or not Amsterdam, but Holland. Yeah,
it's -3 at the moment. So
well,
I'm staying indoors.
Enjoy it.
Anywhere.
I do think with Root and the rest of the team, there's on the one hand, it's this brilliant inspirational leadership. And Shane, you talked about it on the last show. You can't really take the captaincy away from a guy who is every match producing the goods and looks fantastic, and obviously has taken this responsibility. He's developed himself to a point where he clearly loves it. He clearly loves being the guy who is the run machine. On the other hand, though, you do wonder what he's saying to these other players. Like how is that talent not translating itself to not translating itself, but not assisting anyone else in the side. Surely there's something he can be saying to the other players. I mean, I've never been lucky enough to be the best player in the team, or never been lucky enough to play professional cricket. Obviously, Shane, you have, and you've played big boy cricket, as it were, with the guys who are or do seem like they're on that next level. When you're batting with them or when you're in the dressing room, is there anything that they can pass on to help, or is it that they're just better?
Yeah, look, I played with Lehman and Greg Blewett, but Lehman was a different level, really. And he did it a bit differently. So it was hard for him to give you too much advice on how to play, because he played quite different. But he was really good about backing yourself and,
See from ball one, they don't know where their next run's coming from. They're just waiting for the bowler to do what the bowler wants and hoping for the best. They're not at any point do they impose themselves on the game. And I think when you see Root bat, Max, you're talking about him looking busy. He's looking busy because he's imposing himself on the game. He's thinking, right, I can drop a ball into the offside between point and cover because I know there's a single there. If it's wide of off stump and it's short, I can guide that through gully and fourth slip, and it will be along the floor, it'll be runs. If they go full, I've got the cover drive. If they go full and straight, I'll hit them back down the ground. Anything short, I'll tuck it around the corner. He doesn't really play the pull shot. He plays like kind of guide down to long leg. He really clearly has scoring areas, and he looks busy in the right way. He's not busy because his mind's gone. He's busy because he's thinking, I've got 5 places I want to score a run here, and I'm going to try and score a run any opportunity. You watch Hamid play or Zach Crawley play, or Milan and Stokes, or it's very much the bowler is going to bowl at me. I am going to try and not be out, and hopefully somewhere in that story I will score 100. And it just doesn't happen like that. You
got to make the bowlers bowl to you. So the areas you don't want them to bowl, that's where you got to lead well or defend well. So then they have to pitch it up or bowl a bit shorter, a bit wide. I think that's what we're doing. Stokes doesn't know whether he's just defending everything or he wants to go after everything. Same as Butler. They're in two minds, really.
That's for some ways is either everything for 4 or 6. There's no, when you're defending everything, you've got no release, and when you're attacking everything, you're going to get out eventually. It's very hard to go after every ball and
I like
be successful.
Stokes' dismissal was also a very poor one. I don't know what he's trying to do. It's not a test shot. Trying to go to the top of gully. It's a high risk shot.
Stokes' shot was when you're doing that warm up at the start of the game and you're warming up the slip cordon. That's what that was.
Yeah. What's week I want to go on top of line, as you said. It's not a good plan or patient or waiting for the bowlers to make their mistakes. So they're playing in the Australians' hands, and they're just shot ducks at them. And I think if they had some practice tour games against the first class teams, it would have helped out a lot. They've gone straight into a test match.
I mean, they might have lost them, and it could be even worse.
But for me, one thing I forgot to mention last time when I spoke to you, the overrate is so. They're not getting, just sort of going. You can't do that. It just shows the lack of body language, and they're just loping through at a slow pace. And the intensity Australia plays is a high intense cricket, a lot of pressure, a lot of torque, and England are trying to do it at a low intensity way of playing cricket, and it's just not working. They've got to lift up. That's why I would have picked Broad for this, because he's a bit like a pantomime villain in Australia, and that's what they need, get the crowd going and get Warner early. It might just lift the whole team a bit. So I would have played Broad actually just for that and just to fire up the team a bit. They just look like they're just going through the emotions so much and they don't want to be there. So it's not a good headspace to be in, I don't think.
Selection-wise, it looks a little bit like they've blown it again. They've picked the wrong team for bowling-wise. They've picked the wrong team for 3 matches. Adelaide, they should have had a spinner. Looking at that pitch, I'm not sure Leach should be playing above above Wokes, but they've gone for the team that they have, and it'll probably be a disaster, or above Broad. And I think you talk about intensity. We've just watched, over this year, Max, we've watched 8 matches where Virat Kohli's been the opposition captain from an England perspective. He plays, he gets everyone on his team to buy into 100% intensity every ball, because you don't get in that India team if you're not 100% committed to being on it the whole time. You're fielding down at third man. You've got to be ready for anything. And it's, again, when you see it live, you can see how fucking up for it he is. Every single ball, he's like in the umpire's face, in the batter's face, he's in his own bowler's face, getting them to go. He's in the crowd's face. He's pumping people up. The Bharat Army will be at the Oval, and he'll be fucking doing it, giving it the big one, getting the atmosphere going, so that it feels like a cauldron. And it's sometimes we're critical of Virat Kohli's T20 captaincy or whatever, but when you see him in Test matches, that kind of energy is, I think, so important, because for 5 days is a long time to concentrate and to be in the match.
Definitely.
And Virat is so good at getting the team to be in the moment and to get on top of the opposition. And I just don't see that from England. You talk about the overrates there. That's just one manifestation of that. I've said on this podcast before, I watched quite a few days of England live in the summer. There was one point where Jadeja was batting with a tail, and Hasib Hamid was forgetting to come up from deep point to point to stop the strike rotation at the end of the last ball of the over, and Jadeja was knocking a ball out, and then at that point Joe Root was saying, "Why are you not in the circle?" It's that
tells you everything. That tells you. And the Australians play a big pressure game and lots of talk and get in your face a little bit. So you got to come back with that to a certain degree. And Broad is probably the best at that. Anderson, he just looks like he never wants to bowl. He hasn't got. He just looks like, I've got to bowl against another bowling day, and not up for the chat, not up in their face. He used to do it a bit more, but just seems he's not up for it at the moment.
You sort of can't blame him after the year we've had. It's probably 75% of the days are bowling days for England, aren't they? So
that's the Ashes. Max, he can't get up for the Ashes. What's the point? That's his last Ashes. He's never done well in Australia, though, has he? So
I can't believe they picked Anderson for this one, I have to admit.
We got a wicket.
We did get a wicket.
Max, which other Australians impressed you? Scott Boland's a guy I'd like to talk about really quickly, because I had literally not heard of him until about 4 days ago. Why are Nisa and Jai Richardson and the others not in the side?
Apparently Jai Richardson has a bit of a sore leg.
Okay.
And
he's out.
I guess they're resting him up. And supposedly they'd had an eye on Scott Boland for a while, hadn't they? Specifically for this match as well. They've gone horses for courses, which is the direct opposite of what England have gone, apparently.
His average at the MCG is 14 or something this year.
Right.
He's bowled well at MCG, so I think that's what they've done it for. He looks okay. He didn't look a world beater. But another good bowler comes in the team, pitches the ball up though, and tries to hit the stumps, angles in a little bit. But it's a good chance for England. It's like a new guy on debut. They've got to try to take him down and hit him down the ground a bit, and didn't look like they could do that. But he didn't look a world beater. I'd rather face him than Hazelwood, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, this is sort of what I was watching. I mean, obviously, that goes without saying, but I sort of was watching him play, and I it did look easier. It looked like we're into the sixth seamer for Australia in this, or the seventh Australian seamer, and he did look a step down in quality, and that's an average of 14 at the MCG for the season. There's nothing to be sniffed at yet, but again, it's just another thing that England can't exploit, because they bleed in wickets at the other end. But
it's good for Boland to come into the team. And Cummings is probably the best bowler in the world at the moment, which takes the pressure off him a bit. And and then Cummings gets 3 early wickets. So
I mean, Cummings, we can't stress enough how good Cummings was in that first session. I think as you know, just from his bowling, he was class in that session, and it's so frustrating for England to have had 3 people from the other end not bowling really very well and be 62 for 3 at lunch. It's like, what could you do?
Well, not
Oh,
being.
it's a long 4 days for you. I think coming up.
I thought there'll be
3
4
days,
more
maybe.
days.
I'm now in this situation where I'm fully behind Australia and a thumping win because I accidentally signed up to commentate on Guerrilla Cricket at 4:30 in the morning on the UK time on the 4th day. On the 4th day. So if we can get it wrapped up before tea on day 4, I'll be a happy boy.
If Australia bat well tomorrow, it's going to be a horrible.
My concern is that Australia bat too well, and bat for too long.
Right. Anything else from this innings? The bowlers scored. Robinson scored 22. Nathan Lyon cleaned him up at the end. He finishes pretty good figures, 3 for 36 from 14 overs.
I mean, two of those Nathan Lyon wickets were wickets you should be getting when you're bowling against a team who scored 485, not 185. Like,
yeah, they can't play him, can they? I don't know what they're going to do. They're in all sorts against Lyon at the moment. He's really just dominating them from one end, and then the fast bowlers can just operate from the other end. It's a perfect scenario. It's a bit like the old Warney scenario. One end, and then the quicks McGrath clean up at the other end.
Yeah, well, it's exactly what like Jack made the point about Root looks busy, but busy with a plan. It's exactly the kind of the point I was made earlier when I said you can just tell England have had a chat in the lunch dressing room, be like, we need to get on top of Lyon. How? No, just do it. And that happens.
Just do it.
It's like that is the plan, isn't it? It's just hit him for 6. Kevin Peterson was on Twitter, wasn't he, this week, shouting at people to go down the wicket and smash Australia.
So he's got the right idea. Like that. Yeah, he's got the right idea, but you've got to have a thought process.
You've got to be a bit more detailed than that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I think. I think they play him off back foot a little bit, and then he'll come fuller, and then you can get down. You've got to make him change his game somehow by your footwork.
We've seen so many English wickets over the years, and I don't know how many wickets Lyon's taken against him, but it must be nearly 100 by now. So many English wickets, people going down the wicket or pressing hard on the front foot, popping one up at bat pad or being stumped or whatever it is. And then you see at Adelaide on a real turner, England playing well off the back foot and look like they've got a plan and look like they can solve that particular problem. And then the next test, they're back on the front foot.
They've got the plan to survive soon, but they haven't got the
plan to score.
A bit more, or Barrow up and try to work into leg. There's a few other options there. I saw Best they tried to sweep a bit. That's also
Best was all right as well. I mean,
he played spin well. Yeah, I thought he played all right.
We probably don't have enough time to go deep dive on Best though, but he's he's become the master after being the master of scoring runs in 2016. He became the master of being bowled at every opportunity for 3 years in Test cricket, and now he's the master of scoring just enough runs that you think you should keep him in the team because maybe a big score's around the corner. He scored 30s for fun in 2021, which, from an England point of view, isn't something you can ignore.
Mate, if Butler keeps going like he's going, maybe he bats 7 and keeps, and his 30s are quite valuable. But yeah, I was supporting Butler last time we spoke, but I don't know, after that dismissal today, first innings of the Test match, I can't. That's horrific from a senior player. So I don't know where his head's at the moment. He looks like he doesn't want to be out there. Not sure what to do. Maybe they just need to go to the pub and just have a blowout the boys and get out their nerves out of the system. Or Sunday, I don't know. They got to do something.
Christmas beer. Well, I mean,
Where you go?
Right. Let's flip over, talk about Australia's batting briefly. Then we've got a couple of questions in. If you've got a question, put it in the chat. So I didn't do a tweet this morning because I was too hungover and I was tidying up after the Christmas extravaganza yesterday. Australia finished day 61 for 1. Warner Warner basically came out and played like a one-day innings. He was not interested at all in waiting to chase this 185 or get on top. He was just like, "No, I'm going to get the 185 by myself before anyone is in." Marcus Sanchez, he's 20 or 50, which is good for Marcus Harris. And Lyon is the other batter with him at the end of the day. Anything notable from the Australian innings so far, or where do you expect this to go, Max?
England didn't bowl very well. They missed their lengths, and that made it ever easier for Warner to get on top of the England bowlers. And his innings was impressive, and he will be disappointed with the way he got out, because he was really making a statement of domination at that point. So England, they got the wicket, they got Warner out, which is important. Lyon's the night watchman, so there's a chance tomorrow morning that they can, or tonight for the UK listeners, there's a chance that you can get Lyon quickly with him being the night watchman, and that gives you a bit of a boost, bit of a leg up, and maybe with a couple of quick wickets, England might be able to keep Australia down to a less imposing total. But one would expect a pretty plain sailing day for Australia tomorrow. I think it's supposed to be better batting conditions day 2 and 3, isn't it, weather-wise? And it wasn't even that bad to bat today after it had rained and been a bit damp and juicy. So I fear a lot for our.
I've just seen looking at the scorecard here, they bowled another 2 no balls. When are they going to learn? They bowled 60 another 2. They're bowling a no ball every 10 overs in this.
Well,
series.
Stark started the test with a no ball, so maybe they decided to.
It's just
copy
not
Mitch
very
Stark,
good, is it?
He's been good. Stark's been good so far, so let's try and do what he does. Follow him, bowl a no ball.
I'm not a bowler. They always bowl no balls in the nets, these guys, and they did when I played. And surely that's not a good thing. If you bowl no balls in the nets, that's what you're going to do in the game. But all the fast bowlers love bowling.
I think we need to go back to the days of
crazy.
behavioural psychology and a bit of operant conditioning. And every time someone bowls a no ball, just give them a little prod with an electric stick or something. Yeah. No, stop it.
Yeah. But obviously, you've got to get early wickets tomorrow. If Australia make anything over 300, and they're really in trouble, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
If they can get them around 300, just below that, bat well and give them 200 to chase in the fourth innings on day 5. If it gets that far, they're in the game. That's the beauty of batting first. So they're still in a chance. Definitely, it's always an advantage batting first. So, but if Lyon stays in for an hour and absorbs that freshness out of the attack, could be a long couple of days in the field for the boys.
Absolutely.
So,
I can't see anything good happening.
no.
I
All the batters
think
are in form too, aren't they? They all played well, all got runs. Besides Harris, everyone's made runs and looked good. So they'll be eager to get out there, I think, the Aussies, and punish them and win the Ashes. It's on the line tomorrow, basically.
right, fellas, we have a question from Shree, and it's a little bit of a tangent. Thank you, Shree, for the super chat. That is much appreciated. It's a Christmas gift for the Cricket Podcast. He asked, so is India the best right now? They beat Australia and England. Will beat South Africa this month. I mean, that's a presumption. We don't know that for sure yet. That's yet to be played. At home, no one beats England. Love the podcast. So we love you too, Shree. Are India the best team in the world, Shane?
Pretty good team. They've got some good fast bowlers now. That's been a difference over the years. Always batted well and bowled spin well. But yeah, and they played great in Australia. So it's hard to say no. I think New Zealand, though, are a good team as well. They're up there. They're the Test cricket champions or whatever it is. And definitely New Zealand, they're hard to beat as well. So there's some good Test teams at the moment. And unfortunately, England's not one of them.
I should bring that back round.
Yeah.
Just
India, great team.
Yeah,
prod us a bit more.
India. We've talked about Virat Kohli and the way he gets the Indian team to play with such intensity over all 5 days, and I think that's part of the magic. I mean, people go on and on in England anyway. The English cricket media, they go on and on about how talented this group of players are, and you can believe that or not. I mean, I'm not necessarily a buyer myself.
Well, perhaps they are talented, and they're all very good singers and dancers, but not much use when it comes to the ball flying in your face.
There's something wrong in the leadership or the way they prepare or the way they behave on the field that means it doesn't translate. Now, I think that's probably partly because they're not as good as people say they are. But also, you drop 15 catches in 2 tests and you lose wickets in the way England were losing wickets today, and it's difficult to. It's difficult to be a good team if you're doing that. You're not a good team, are you?
The drop catches are a really good example. Fielding's attitude, you've got to want the ball to come to you and be in the game all the time. It doesn't look like that. It's like the slow over rate, the dropping of catches. It's just the whole body language is not up for the Test cricket. Like Kohli does, he brings India to the party and brings that intensity, and that's what they're lacking a bit at the moment. Definitely. And the fielding just sums that up completely.
I think even batting, some of them look scared to bat. It's batting when I was a kid, and I don't know if it's the same for you two. I absolutely loved it. It was the best bit of the whole day. You go out there, somebody throws the ball to you, and you hit it all over the place. It's supposed to be an absolute joy. Even now, I'm a 29-year-old man playing recreational cricket. It's so much fun when it's going right for you, and you're hitting the ball. It goes for 4 or 6, and there's blokes running after it.
The worst place to be.
You feel like the king of the castle.
The worst place to be is they sat on the side watching someone else bat because you've just got out.
The first class grounds in Test cricket, there's a lot of good food in those change rooms.
when you're 29 and you're playing recreational cricket, the worst place to be. Maybe in the Lord's long room, it's a different story, but.
Definitely being professional cricketer, it's not. It does take the fun out of the cricket a little bit. Actually, it becomes a bit like Groundhog Day, training again, batting again. So I understand what you're saying, but it definitely looks like that for them at the moment. But you got a big crowd, the MCG. That's going to get you up and fire up to want to be enjoy your cricket again. But when the press is against you, everyone's against you. The Aussies are relentless bowling. They just looks like they're not enjoying it at all. That's why I said go to the pub and have a beer or something. Maybe enjoy it again.
That's sort of what I want. I mean, like we're at the point now where we're completely speculating on how England get better. And I do think go and play the game like you want to be there. Like you're having fun. You might lose, but don't. I don't know. I feel like in 10 years' time, when these players are done, or in 2 years' time, when some of these players are done, they'll look back at this and they'll think, we don't really know what would have happened if we went out there and just gave it a go. They're going to die wondering. And I feel like that's a very sort of sad place to be in from a sporting perspective. It's not.
Yeah, this tour has gone so quick for them. They sort of got here, they didn't have a practice game, and then 2 tests are over in 2 weeks. And it's like, what's happened? It's been too fast for them, and they just weren't ready from that ball one and on day one at the Gabba. Bowled out for 140, just been behind the 8 ball since that first innings, really. Set the tone. It always sets the tone, doesn't it, in the Ashes series? The first session, first day, that's what they say. You win that, you win the Ashes, and that's what the Aussies are doing for sure.
First ball of the first day.
Ball.
God, yeah.
We can call it the contractual obligation series, can't we? That's what it's like. You have
any further points that anyone wanted to touch upon before we wrap this up?
No, I'm sad, Jack. Really.
You're sad, you boy. You lost sleep for nothing.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the worst part of it for you.
I suppose on the plus side, I having when I stayed up for the first session, I'd watch the best session of the day from an English point of view.
Yeah, the Birmingham Army enjoying themselves. That's a positive. They're singing non-stop, so that's a good sign for England, maybe.
Yeah.
Something positive.
Is that all we can get? Is that
drinking and sitting better than Australia.
A bunch of alcoholics are having a good time. That's the highlight of the England series. Yeah.
So far, yeah, unfortunately. That's all you got.
Right, let's wrap this up. Thanks for coming on again, Shane.
No worries, enjoyed it.
It's always good to talk to you. Max, any messages for our listeners before we go?
Yes. First of all, apologies for the internet issues we've experienced today, but it happens. Boxing Day. The internet is clearly struggling as much as some other people are around the country, getting up at before 12 o'clock, but that's all good. And the other messages are please do like and subscribe on YouTube. Head over to Twitter and Instagram at the Cricket Pod. Follow us there, and on Spotify, leave us a nice review. Now that you can click a button to give us a number of stars out of 5, the higher the better, please. That'd be lovely. And again, Merry Christmas. Hope everyone is well. And on Patreon.com. /Cricket Pod is the other one.
Done. Tomorrow we'll try and talk a little bit about India probably as well, because they're obviously in action against.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not going to do a special
early.
live show this evening, but
No.
we'll do a little bit of a catch up.
And we don't want to go too early on the India game because they've started well, but it could all change.
Right. Cheers again, Shane, for coming on.
Thanks,
Well done,
boys. Guys. All good.
Yeah.